Megan Hicks of I Run Far. I'm with Marianne Hogan. It's the day after the 2022 Western States Endurance Run. Wow, congratulations on your third place, Marianne.
Thank you. That means a lot.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling better than I was at the finish line, or actually 5 minutes after the finish yesterday.
You had a rough after race experience, or rather it started in the middle of the race, didn't it?
Yeah, I had some, excuse my language, but projectile vomit right after last chance. So it was kind of difficult to get back from that, but eventually I was able to keep some food in me and get some liquids back in. It's just that when the race finished and I started throwing up again.
Well, we'll get to maybe that experience slightly more intimately, and you said that very politely. So, but let's back up to the start of the race, because we talked about in our pre-race interview that you were dealing with a recovery from ankle stuff, but I guess you also had some back issues going on.
Yeah, I had some back issues going on. I was trying to just play it under the rug and try to not make it reality.
I'm fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. But I've been dealing with some pretty serious back pain for the last 2 weeks. So I was actually really worried as to what would happen on the day of the race. And it was especially painful going uphill. So it made for an interesting race strategy. And people were probably like, what is this girl doing? Bombing down the downhill and going easy on the uphill. But somehow it worked out for me, so I'm glad that I was able to make it to the finish line.
That is an interesting race strategy, and your quads and downhill legs kept themselves together the whole time?
Yeah, well, I mean, back pain aside, going downhill is usually my strength, so I was glad that I could use that. I think that if my back was hurting on the downhill, I think that would have made it really, really harder for me, especially considering there's so much downhill.
Now, sort of big picture, watching your race yesterday, you were sort of in the mix for podium position early on, maybe the race's first third, and then you backed off a bit in the middle before re-emerging into the podium in the race's final third. But that had to do more with you managing the stomach situation rather than what was going on with the rest of the race?
Yeah, definitely, because I started feeling really sick when I got to Robinson Flat.
Okay.
So that whole section from Robinson Flat all the way to Last Chance, I was just feeling so sick. And so eventually when I did throw up, it actually made me feel really better. So I just,
funny.
yeah, I was
running.
yeah. I don't know what was going on, but whatever, I got it out of my system. And absolutely, the challenge from that point began to be okay, but now I have to replenish. And it was a difficult spot to replenish because we're going into some canyons and it's really, really hot. So I took the 2 canyons super easy. I did not push anything. I just, one foot in front of the other, and try to keep in mind that we're running 100 miles and it's an ultra, and you're gonna have lows and you're gonna have highs, and that was definitely a low point for me.
It sounds like there was some mental stuff going on there, rather sort of psychologically trying to triage and work through things, but then also the physical component of getting your stomach back to get nutrition in. Where, was it 50-50 dealing with mind and body, or how were things actually playing out for you then?
Yeah, well, in an ultra, your mental game goes left and right. You're like, at some point it's just, well, today's all about finishing, And then you get to an aid station and someone tells you, you're actually doing really well. You can get to the podium. And then your mind shifts. And that was really helpful, kind of that external positivity. I had a really big crew out there, and they were just very friendly, very supportive. And that really, really helped me get out of that mental, maybe negative state.
Honestly, coming into Forest Hill, mile 62, of all of the top 10 men and women, you had the biggest party going on. The biggest crew, the most rambunctiousness and excitedness.
Yeah, I'm really happy that everyone made it out. My entire family was out there, and some of my closest friends who also paced me. So that really, really helped me. I think from Forest Hill is really where I had a mental click in my mind that I'm okay, I'm taking food again. And also, I don't know how many people told me that the race starts at Forest Hill, and I was just ready to go, You
were telling yourself that over and over again.
Over and over. I was like, okay, it's time to go now.
One of the fascinating things of watching sort of the entire women's race was just how close the top 10 women were that far into the race. Given that you had a lot of stuff on your own going on, were you sort of gaming or, thinking about that women's race game at that point, or when did your position sort of come to your mind again?
I think from at Greengate, because I ended up crossing Greengate in 4th place. Excuse me, and that's really when my crew was saying like, oh, Emily's not far. But I'm really not one to accelerate because someone's there. I just do my own race, and I'm just thinking like, oh, eventually if things go well for me, I will catch her. So for me, it was just a matter of keep moving, keep pushing, and the idea of you got to keep looking forward and not think about who's back. That's what I was trying to do. I was just like, okay, keep moving, and I think that was a section that I pushed through the most, is from Greengate all the way to the finish.
And so when did you move into 3rd place exactly?
I moved into 3rd place maybe like 2 miles after Auburn Lake.
Okay. So, what is that, like 13, a half marathon to go, maybe something like that, 20K?
Yeah, something like that.
And at that point, are you looking forward? Are you looking back, being like, I'm defending this podium spot at all costs, or is it just management?
It's definitely management, but it's also, it's also quite fun to realize that you're on the podium of Western States. So I was kind of holding on to that and just kept thinking like, okay, like you can just maintain, keep moving. And it's important at that point of the race to realize that everyone is going through some pain. And, it's at that point, that's just what I was telling myself is, it's hurting, but if I slow down, it's not going to hurt less. And the people behind are hurting as well. So you just got to keep moving. And that's what I was telling myself.
We talked in our pre-race interview about how this was sort of like the culmination of some stuff for you. Like you had an emergence into ultra running 4 or 5 years ago. You had a severe injury. You've been building back to running your debut 100 miles. Has that all occurred to you yet? Like, yes, I did it. I achieved my goal. Or where are you at right this moment?
I don't think I've realized it quite yet. I'm just like, whoa, I got 3rd. Like, that's mind blowing to me. I think at some point, just finishing would have been a victory to me. And I think the biggest victory for me is really making it to the start line. It is a challenge for me just because of all the injuries that I've been dealing with. But I'm glad that I was able to pull through with the 3rd place finish.
It's an unfair question to ask less than 24 hours from the finish, but this is one of those like coveted things. Like you get the... Hello. You okay?
Yeah. I'm okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm okay, but I'm definitely falling a little bit.
Okay. So, okay.
Yeah, I'm okay. It's just a little hot.
Yep. Congratulations on your 3rd place finish. You are amazing.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
let's go sit down.
Sorry.
No. You held your shit together so well.
Thank you.